What's up, everybody? Welcome in to a new crib edition of
Mm.
SSPN. I'm Jude. That is Ethan. Ethan is on the laptop today because after his recent move, we're still getting everything sorted out. I kind of want you to tell that story, dude, because that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I got a new phone, and as you know, when you get the new phone, iPhone makes you get a new charger. So I
Uh huh.
either tossed my old charger or I misplaced it during my move, which is probably what happened. And my keyboard for my desktop needs that charger. So now it's dead, and I have no way to actually get into my desktop. So here I am on the laptop. So I apologize. I'm not using my actual mic. I have no idea what I sound like, but this is the platform we're rocking with.
You do not sound too bad at all, but I was just
Thank
like,
goodness.
man, getting home, getting onto the computer just to see
Hmm.
that your keyboard doesn't work. Tough one, tough one. But you know what was nice to come home to, Ethan?
What's that?
David Jones-Garcia
Right.
signing a two-way contract with the San Antonio Spurs today. A little bit surprising, I will say. I think you and I had kind of felt like he had done enough, as much as it was just summer league, to kind of
Hmm.
earn that final one of the open roster spots that is still available, but did sign a two-way today. Shams Charania reported it a little bit earlier. Averaged 22 points per game in summer league, as well as 6 rebounds and 53% on threes. Definitely excited to see him in Austin. Definitely very happy that he signed with us, whether it was a
Hmm.
two-way or an actual roster spot. But was a little bit surprised there. I mean, I will say there's probably some veteran names out there that we can go get, but I think what I would say, the reason that I'm more surprised we didn't give him a full contract is because I felt like if we didn't, somebody else would.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, he may have been offered one. This is complete speculation, but based on his interviews and post game stuff, it sounds like he really is comfortable with San Antonio, the infrastructure of the organization, and his teammates. So maybe he was offered a full extension or contract with another team, Jude. But I think he probably thinks he has high potential to actually play meaningful basketball here in San Antonio, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and we've talked about it with Mamu,
Hmm.
Champagny, Drew Eubanks, even Dominic Barlow. As much as some of those guys like Dom Beasy might still be on a two-way, those guys have had consistent like NBA careers after being
Yep.
a part of the Spurs organization, even if they only played in spurts. You could even say that like Jock Landale's another example of that. He wasn't a two-way, but still just another example of somebody kind of coming in, as much as that was the NBL and not the G League in. That's just another example of somebody who comes into the NBA for the first time as kind of a lesser known player and makes a career for themselves. And I think as well, a little bit of the island connection. I know that obviously the Dominican Republic is not the same thing as the U.S. Virgin Islands, and of course, very different culturally, but still a little bit of that island connection with Timmy Duncan as well. I'm sure he was aware of him.
And like you said, the name Garcia, if he does get
Oh
on the
man.
actual Spurs, his jersey will be a top seller without a doubt.
Hey man, if we just get some two-way minutes in a blowout, at
Dude,
some point this season when he comes on the floor, they're gonna go crazy for him.
I might be wrong, Jude. I might have recency bias here. I know we've had some solid two-way guys in the
Uh huh.
past that have been absolute buckets. David Duke Jr. is probably the most recent one. But there's something about David Jones Garcia that has me a little bit more excited about his upside and ability to maybe make an impact on the real team. Jude, you have more what's the word I'm looking for? Experience watching these two-way guys and these G League players. Would you agree with that analysis?
I definitely would. I was trying to look up his NBA stats profile to see if I could get a game log of the summer league games for us here. But the what you're referencing, just his presence, like the way that he
Yeah.
just even this sounds so simple, but the way that he dribbles the ball up the floor and the way that you can tell that he's communicating with other guys and kind of orchestrating things and just viewing the floor, like his court vision with the ball in his hands, you can see it. You know what I mean? You can see
Hmm.
his surveillance of the floor, if you will, as a primary ball handler. So I definitely, you don't want to overreact to the summer league competition, but in that setting, he had the it factor. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the commentators were noticing it. He only had one game that he was off, and he still was impactful on defense and playmaking and on the boards. He really could control the pace of the game as well. I think one of the reasons, as much as I wanted to see it more, of course, when we were watching the games, him playing next to Dylan Harper, I think the reason that they didn't play them together so much is because both of them, as Winky's in the back, just messing. He's exploring the new terrain, Ethan.
Yeah.
But to get back to Dylan Harper and David Jones-Garcia, both of them they were pace controllers. Both of them controlled the pace of the game and kind of set the pace of the game. So it was hard for both of them to do that at the same time. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of why we didn't see them on the floor as much together. But also 53% on threes. So he's 6'6" or 6'5". So he's got some combo guard ability. He can still play off the ball. But I think when you were asking me that question, kind of just like the it factor when it comes to two-way guys, we'll say.
Mhm.
I think that was just, again, because of kind of the presence that you saw, from him on the court.
100% agree. I think it's nice that we have a unexpected storyline to follow going into this season, Jude. Maybe you'll have a reason to watch some more Austin Spurs games. I know last year you kind of took the year off, a little bit of a hiatus for Jude McLaren.
David Jones-Garcia will definitely get me back invested in a two-way player who could maybe earn some rotation minutes for the Spurs. That's for sure.
That's what the fans want to hear.
But on a serious note, Ethan, just, I kind of gave my breakdown of him a little bit there, but on court specifically, and this will kind of transition into our next topic, we're just going to be doing player evals for all of the summer league games that we saw. What were the things that stuck out to you about David Jones-Garcia in the games that we saw him in the summer league?
It's crazy to say this considering he was playing next to Dylan Harper for a couple of games and Carter Bryant, 2 lottery picks. But honestly, Jude, watching the game, he looked like the best player on the court every game except for that one small stinker that he had. Otherwise, it was his control of the game, like you said, the pace that he plays with. He had veteran poise for someone who's, I think, 24 years old.
I think
So
he
he's on
might be
the
even a little younger.
23. I guess he's technically on the older side of the young, player.
Yeah.
But for someone with his experience in the G League already, someone who's kind of been around the horn, he played at a few different college programs for some pretty substantial coaches.
Mhm.
You can totally see that it like oozes off the screen. So I'm excited to see him really be the focal point of the Austin Spurs. And ideally, maybe not this year, maybe next year, but ideally, to me, he feels like a guy that can slot in that bench rotation in a year or two and kind of bring some energy, like similarly to a Jonathan Simmons back in the day. I know I bring him up a lot, especially when we talk about these two-way players, but that's kind of what you're looking for at the end of the day with Austin, right? Is to find a diamond in the rough with some upside like David Jones-Garcia that could eventually make a name for himself in the bench rotation. And so that's hopefully what we can see from him. And that's kind of what jumped off the screen watching it this summer league.
And just we're going to get real far. We're talking like 2027, 2028 right now, Ethan. If we look at this bench rotation, okay, we've got a lot of guards on the team that are pretty good in like a De'Aaron Fox, a Stephon Castle, a Dylan Harper. And you and I believe that Devin Vassell is an above average guard in the NBA. And we believe that Keldon is a very solid, backup three, maybe even, an above average or a high value backup three. But regardless of that, Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, those could, depending on how things go contract-wise, those could just be some tough decisions that we've got to make, you know what I mean, monetarily, because there's some other extensions that we've got coming down the pipe as well. There could be an open spot kind of in that 2 or 3 position in the backup rotation, or in a world as well where Dylan Harper moves into the starting lineup eventually one day, there could be a backup point guard position open as well. So there definitely, it may not be this season, but long term, that there could be some opportunities for David Jones-Garcia, to compete for some minutes there.
100%. He's the kind of guy I could see in next year. He gets like a 3-year team option contract on a very affordable deal. Like I could see that coming. Kind of what we did with Charles Bassey a couple years ago. Obviously, that one didn't work out. We have hopes and prayers that this one will. Fingers crossed. But we will see how it works out this season, Jude.
100%. And, it also kind of lines up, Ethan, with just that idea. Again, Julian Champagny, Sandro Mamukelashvili, they start off in a two-way, or Danny Green even. Let's go back to Danny Green, right?
Right.
They eventually earn, that long-term roster spot. So also, I was looking in the chat here on YouTube, Ethan, because I noticed we didn't see any on our restream. There are some that didn't pop up. So Goop Cat, he was in here earlier. He said, "We got DJG. Let's go." Cowboy Tanaka says, "Go Spurs, go." DJG getting that two-way, stay hungry. Then we've also got some other comments in here from Henry Rojas. He says, Jones-Garcia looks like he can actually hit a wide open three. There you go. You love to see that from someone who can also handle the ball.
Right.
And then M here says DJG signing a two-way instead of going somewhere else really shows the type of player he wants to be and that he's fully bought into the Spurs plan, which is great and shows how the organization works.
100%. It's kind of what I was saying at the beginning. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, 100%. But let's get into some of these other players in Summer League, Ethan. The one that everybody is going to want to talk about, of course, Dylan Harper. Only got to see 2 games from him. Wasn't the best efficiency shooting wise. I could see some people saying that they would have liked to see some higher assist numbers, but I thought you brought up some pretty good context whenever we were having that conversation. There were a lot of good passes that he made that just, ended up not being executed on. The shot didn't get knocked down. And then on top of that, I also forgot to mention when you were talking about that there were a lot of hockey assists from him as well. So there were definitely still some playmaking flashes. I'll kind of give my opinion to this afterwards, but what was your evaluation of Dylan Harper's summer league?
I thought it was a good summer league. I mean, the expectation is always going to be, he comes in, he gets 30 a night, averages a triple double, but that's just not the reality of it. I thought he got to his spots well. He could get in the paint pretty much at will. He made the right pass. There were some small errors mentally that he made, and he immediately kind of like a turnover here and there where he would immediately be like, okay, that was a bad decision. And you could see it on his body language that was a bad decision. But he's still playing off some rust because of that groin injury. So he was kind of playing back into game shape too, and you could kind of see that as well. I'm not worried at all. I think he's exactly what was advertised. I think he just needs some more reps under the belt and some better chemistry with his teammates who he was just kind of thrown out there to play with at kind of last minute. So I think that he will be fine. And defensively, I feel like he's much better than I thought he was going to be. That was 100% the best part of his game, at least in the summer league, aside from getting into the paint at will. So if he can at least be a guy that's going to be a point of attack defender and be able to get into the paint and make a play from time to time, that's bare minimum. That's a phenomenal rookie season ahead of him. But I think he'll be a little bit more explosive than that statistically.
Yeah. I think you had a really good synopsis there, Ethan. The only thing I'll add is that, I feel like probably over the past couple years, especially with our show, we've tried to the context and the caveats and the excuses. I feel like Spurs fans might be a little bit tired of at this point, but this is a completely different situation in Summer League. First games that he'd played since March. Again, brand new teammates. Also had the injury kind of coming in as much as it was a minor injury. And then again, man, the things that stuck out to me, you could see he had the it factor. 100%. When he had the ball in his hands, you could just see, what we were talking about with David Jones-Garcia earlier. Like, imagine that, but again, McDonald's All-American 5-star prospect, like that, like times 10, where you could see it emanate, off the floor when you watched him. But man, the on-ball defense as well as the off-ball defense as well, the way he would trail guys, the effort that he would give, the IQ that you could see on his rotations of knowing where to go. And even I saw a little bit of his off-ball spacing as well. Granted, a lot of what he does is, with the ball in his hands. I think we even saw some flashes of some off-ball cuts as well. I believe the first score in this game, I just pulled up the box score from the Jazz game, was an off-ball cut from Dylan Harper up the middle. And of course, the clutch layup as well. When it comes to the shooting and the playmaking, again, I think some of it is teammates, like you were mentioning, where it's just, it's a brand new team that he's thrust into, missed shots, some hockey assists as well. But again, I really just chalk it all up to just kind of knocking the rust off. And I know that's kind of, you could say that's an excuse, but I'm just really not worried about Dylan Harper's shooting or his scoring ability or his playmaking, man. I'm just not.
Me neither. Let's not forget how poor Wemby played in his summer league debut as well. I mean, that was pretty much as bad as they can get from a number one overall pick. And now look at him. So I'm not worried either.
Yeah, and Christian Lamone brings up a good point. He was on a minutes restriction in his first game too, and didn't get the California Classic to get warmed up as well. Those are some key reps. As Winky agrees, Winky is like, "Look, Dylan Harper, no worries, don't worry about it." I have to make myself known for the Dylan Harper talk there.
Yes, he's a big fan of Dylan Harper. That's his favorite player.
But yes, the defensive intensity, the ball pressure, as well as just the IQ whenever it came to his rotations, those were the things that kind of I was like, okay, I didn't really see that as much when I was watching his college tape, and that kind of popped off the screen for me. And again, that's nature of circumstance at Rutgers.
100%. His dad is amazing too, Ron Harper. Go follow him on Twitter. He's an amazing follow.
I was going to say he is not afraid to speak his mind. That is for sure.
Love an OG.
For sure. Okay, the next guy that we're going to talk about is our other first round pick here, Ethan, Carter Bryant. What was your eval of him in the summer league games that you saw?
Offensively, he's still pretty raw. And I think we knew that when we first, watched his tape. And then over time, we were so enamored with the other aspects of his game that we kind of forgot about it. But that is still a project piece to his game, is actually scoring. However, his shot looks great. His mechanics look good. There's no hitch in his jump shot. It's a very pretty jump shot. So once those threes actually start to fall, I think that will translate pretty quickly. But defensively is obviously where he's going to be paid this year if he plays, which I think we hope he gets at least some spot minutes this season. He will be out there to cause disruption defensively. As a point of attack defender, as a switchable guy, he can basically guard 1 through 4. And then off ball, we saw the block shots. We saw he basically took over sequences defensively for the team. Like,
Yeah.
miscommunications, misassignments that he cleaned up for everybody. He was kind of a pseudo Wemby. Obviously, he's not 7'4" and can do less.
Yeah.
Kind of similar impact, at least in the summer league. And I think that's to be expected from him this season at the bare minimum.
Yeah. I know we just wrapped up Dylan Harper, but what I'm about to say about Carter can kind of be applied to him too. When it comes to the lack of offensive execution, you know what I mean? Or like the low percentage, nothing ever, well, other than maybe that there might have been a player here and there for Carter, but nothing ever really looked like super ugly. Like I remember there was he had a lot of missed turnaround fadeaway jumpers, but the dribble drive leading into it and the turnaround shot and like the fluidity of the shot looked good. It just wasn't falling. Same thing with, the off ball shooting. I'm going to say off the dribble when I was totally not meaning that. The off ball shooting, where he's in catch and shoot situations, like it looks smooth. Obviously not all of there were a few air balls, I want to say, kind of throughout summer league that he had, but still not every shot looked completely terrible. Just the percentage was not falling, obviously. Like the shots were not going in. But again, that's just really that's the main criticism that I have for him offensively. Like you said, he's just a lot more raw than we thought kind of going in. We were mentioning beforehand that we kind of felt like he would be somebody as a lottery pick that would come in and immediately be a part of the rotation. Then we see the Kelly Olynyk trade kind of during summer league. And then you also see him in the California Classic games, as well as what we saw from him in Vegas. And the picture is kind of painted a little bit more, but defensively, dude, he can come in and make an impact right now. And like, that's half the game. Like I don't have anything. The only thing that I would say is like a criticism for him defensively, you could say, is that maybe he got in foul trouble a little too much. But again, like a dude who plays with his type of effort at his age, you know what I mean? With who he was, like, that's something I could have saw, you know what I mean? Coming in. That's not too surprising. I guess, not really having any good shooting game percentage wise, that's a little bit surprising, I could say, but he did have the 3 for 8 game, you know what I mean, to start off, I believe, in the first game in the California Classic. So that was one that I guess I would qualify that as too. But
against the Hornets, he played really well. You could say that, but isn't that the one we got blown out in? So it doesn't really kind of write it off.
What was his stat line in that one?
You know what? I don't even. I remember he had, I think, at least 20 points. Let me see here.
You might be thinking of old DJ G.
No, he had
Maybe I
one.
missed
He
this
had
bet.
one good game. He had one like very good game. Let's see.
Here, let me go
Well,
to.
not quite 20, but he did go 6 for 9 and 4 for 6 for 3, and so he had 16 points.
This was the
16,
Hornets
5,
game.
and 3. Yes.
Okay, I totally missed that one. So there you go. Yeah, so he did have a game that was good. So yeah, again,
Yeah.
that just goes back to my point that I was kind of getting to. I'm not saying that everything's perfect with him right now, but I'm not concerned about his long-term potential whatsoever. And defensively, he's good to go. And
Yeah.
when the Spurs hone that, they hone that energy, that athleticism, that intensity, that effort, like it's going to be even better when that's refined. Um, and I just, again, I feel like all the ingredients for him to be good offensively are there. It's just about learning to execute, and that just takes reps.
Couldn't agree more.
Alrighty, let's see what we got in the comments here. Christian Lamone, we appreciate you being in here, my guy. He says Carter went 4 for 6 from 3 in his last game, I think, 16 points. That was the Hornets game. We appreciate the correction there. And yeah, let's go ahead and move on to some of the other guys. So we talked about Carter Bryant, we talked about Dylan Harper, and we talked about David Jones-Garcia. Now to talk about some of our other two-way guys, we'll go with Riley Minix. Ethan, what were your thoughts on Riley Minix? Is summer
Man,
league.
I love some Riley Minix, dude. I love some Riley Minix. Will he eventually play for the San Antonio Spurs? I don't think so, and I hope he proves me wrong. But he strikes me as a kind of another David Duke Jr. Right? I keep using his name, but just another guy that's going to be a really solid two-way player that never actually cracks and will eventually find his way to another team. But I really did like what I saw from him. We knew who he was as a three-level scorer. He's a phenomenal shooter. He had that game-winning fadeaway that everybody in the gym, including me, knew that it was money. Uh, but what I was really most pleased to see was defensively, he was no slouch. And we've talked about this a little bit. I always thought he was pretty, to say it politely, piss poor at defense. And then we talked about that pre-summer league. But now that we're completely done, he's a lot better than I thought. He's a physical guy. He's got a nice frame. He's 6'7", 230, so he can guard probably just threes and fours because of his athleticism, but at least switchable amongst forwards. So yeah, I mean, just a little bit more upside than I had given him credit for. But at the end of the day, he's still kind of an older, young guy, and I just don't envision him cracking the Spurs rotation, Jude.
Especially with what we saw from David Jones-Garcia and with his signing as well. But with that being said, really liked what I saw from Riley. And even if he doesn't crack the Spurs rotation ever, Ethan, I still will say that I think there could be a world where he could maybe earn like a full-time contract as a third stringer. Now, again, we'll have to see. There could also be a world where, in a year or two after another two-way, he rides off into the sunset and finds another team. But defensively in Summer League, that was the main thing for me that stood out for Riley Minix. There's some physical things on the interior, but he showed me more than I thought he had. Mike Noyes, or I think Noyes, not Noyes. Mike Noyes, the head coach for the Summer League, said he was their best on-ball defender in the Jazz game. Like you said, just kind of that modern 3-4 switchable role, offensively and defensively. But his ball pressure is something that stood out to me a lot more than it had in the past. And then also what he did in the interior, as much as, maybe he'd get from time to time, he'd get out muscled by guys. His length, the way that he'd stand straight up, he knew how to not foul, whenever he was contesting guys at the rim and was able to be as strong as he could be in those situations, man. I was really impressed with his defense overall. And then obviously offensively, we kind of already knew a lot about that. Maybe I didn't know that he had the clutch gene that he had in that buzzer beater that he hit against the Jazz, though. I'll give him that one.
Yeah, he definitely hit a big shot. I will say, are you, first of all, anything else to add about Riley?
I think he's a high value two-way guy. I'll say that.
Okay. I think he might be more high value than our second round pick last year, who's the next guy I think that we're going to talk about, Harrison Ingram. I think a lot of the good things we said about Riley, we could also say about Harrison, just at a less consistent rate. Harrison is a pretty good playmaker. He's a really good rebounder for his size. He plays physical. He plays with high energy. He's not a 3-level scorer. We hoped he would be 3 and D, but the 3 part hasn't really gotten there yet. So offensively, he's a little MIA. We did talk about that. So right now, he's just a tempo guy. He's a rebound and push the pace. And if he can get to the rim, it's a layup, or he makes a play, which is it's not valuable. Dude. That is valuable. But I think Riley can do the same thing, just with a little bit better of a 3-point shot, and just a better scorer in general, to be honest.
Yeah, when I brought up Riley Minix being a high-value two-way guy, that was this was the perfect lead-in, because what I was going to say is I do think I value him a little bit more than I do Harrison Ingram. And here's the other thing about that, and I should have mentioned this earlier. Both of them have technically not accepted their two-way contracts yet as of now. I could be wrong on some of that. Correct me in the comments if that is the case. I would check out Paul Garcia on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. He's been on top of that when it comes to just the Spurs contracts and everything. But I have not seen that. I did get the notification about David Jones-Garcia. I feel like I might have seen something about that if that had changed. But again, correct me there. So maybe there's a world that Harrison Ingram doesn't, get the third two-way, if you will. And maybe there's a world where Riley doesn't either. But I think with Riley's performance, he's going to be back for sure. But the only actual confirmed two-way contract that the Spurs have signed is David Jones-Garcia as of right now.
Understood. So I guess it's TBD at this point. I still think he deserves a two-way. I think he'll play well in Austin this year. I just think that he has less of a chance to actually crack the Spurs rotation at all than maybe we had thought when we had first drafted him.
Yeah, or even earning a roster spot in general.
Yeah, correct.
But do want to say, with all of that being said, here's the one thing, like we talk about the negatives, right? When it comes to positives for Harrison Ingram, dude gives a ton of energy. Like he's never not giving effort. Like you can see why the Spurs, like he has all the traits of being a Spurs guy and coming from North Carolina, the program that they've built over there. Obviously, the personal discipline and effort that he gives, you can just see that on the court. He obviously holds himself to a high standard with the energy that he plays. He's never out there slouching around. But really, the main game that I would harp on again is the Utah game. That was probably his best game of Summer League. That's him at his best, but he is kind of like a 3-4 and he's undersized there. And if he doesn't develop into like a 40% 3-point shooter, it's going to be tough for him to have a lot of value, on an NBA roster. And again, we say all this as we are saying this, like Harrison Ingram, bro, could absolutely school us, when it comes to a lot of sets and all that stuff. And of course, being on the court. But this is just our opinion, from our podcast chair.
100%. No disrespect. He's a really smart player. I can give him that. And that's not even me trying to be too nice. Like he is a high IQ player. I just think when you compare him to Riley Minix and we're analyzing their games, I have Riley if we're doing the 3 two-way guys, I go David, Riley, and then Harrison.
And there were a lot of low efficiency shooting games for Harrison, and this is kind of in his second year, in comparison to Carter. Like they were similar to Carter games, but, different set of circumstances, obviously.
This is when you need your second round picks going into their second year. This is when they have to pop off. Trey Jones popped off in his second year in the Summer League. Who was the second round pick before Harrison Ingram? I'm blanking.
I am too. Honestly, I don't keep track.
Doesn't matter. Julian Champagny popped off in the second year of the Summer League.
That's a good point.
Charles Bassey played well. Your boy played well back
Dom
in his
Beasy.
day. Dom Beasy. I'm pretty sure Drew Eubanks actually played very well in the Summer League too. He was another name. So I'm not saying the Summer League is the be-all, end-all, but from a second-round pick going into his second year, we gave him every excuse last year about him being MIA offensively and kind of unimpactful. And he did have one really good game this year, but I think we just kind of expected a little bit more from a guy who has 1 year of experience playing under this regime, this coaching staff, this playbook. he should have at least played a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Harrison Ingram's effort
Yeah.
always. But the name that we missed there, Ethan, it was Sidi Sissoko. And even
And he
he,
did play well. He played very well.
yeah, in the second year.
Yeah.
So to your point, even more there, Ethan. So that pretty much wraps up all of the Summer League talk whenever it comes to player evaluations. Are there any other like final thoughts that you have on Summer League? Any takeaways that stood out to you from anything?
We played very well. We had a real shot. It's a shame we didn't
Oh,
win.
man.
But it was fun to watch. And I think we have an exciting young group with a lot of good storylines this year.
Yeah, I think that was just kind of like, it wasn't even the appetizer. It was like the pre-dinner snack, before the meal of what is going to be the season. It's a little bag of almonds you have just to hold you over before the car ride.
I
But
like that.
but there were some flashes though, dude. You know what I mean? Like you could tell that the Spurs
Mm-hmm.
energy was up. Obviously, you had the players there, so I think that added to it too. But it just felt like the publicity around the Spurs and the energy around the Spurs, like people are curious, like they want to see what we look like. What is Dylan Harper going to look like? We get Dylan Harper versus Cooper Flagg. It was just a super fun summer league and definitely got the energy. Like I said, a little preview of what the energy is going to feel like during the season.
I know I'm more excited than usual, Jude.
I am too, man. I am too,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be here before we know it. Christian Lamone in the comments, he says, "I low-key kind of miss CD," and I think we all do a little bit. Let me see, is he still with Portland, or is he even on a team?
He's definitely on a team. I don't know if he's with Portland though.
Because I was
We'll
gonna
see.
say, because Blake Wesley signed with Portland today, so I was gonna
He
say
is still with Portland. Yes.
Blake and CD, baby, they're back together.
Yep. Them and Dame, the big three.
Dame, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, and Blake Wesley and CD Sissoko.
Big time 5-star, big time starting lineup.
That's especially emphasis on CD and Blake. Oh my goodness. But Ethan, we still have 2 open roster spots. I texted you about this on Sunday when I sent you the breakdown for everything. Again, I feel like I've been putting this up so much at this point, but we will throw it up again one last time. I have not updated this with David Jones-Garcia on here, and I need to probably take Riley Minix and Harrison Ingram off until that is official. But because the David Jones-Garcia signing was about 30 minutes before the stream, didn't have time to edit this. But still, 2 roster spots available for the Spurs on the main roster, Ethan. They are most likely going to be third-string spots. We'll have to see if they're both front court positions or if it's another guard and one more front court position. But what are your thoughts on this a week later? We've kind of already gone through all the names, but yeah, what are your thoughts on us still having 2 open roster spots a week later?
I think last time we talked, I wanted to go one guard / wing and then a center. I think I'd rather go a 4 and a 5 and just completely shore up our front court, Jude. 2 names I think of are Chris Boucher, who might cost a little bit more, and then a DeAndre Jordan or a center that's willing to take a veteran minimum.
Alex Len.
And the only reason I say that is because our guard room is so heavy, and we have some guys that are playing the 3 and the 4 that can kind of shift over to the 2 and the 3, vice versa. I think we have a lot of versatility in the backcourt. But Carter's a rookie. Kelly can technically play the 5. If Victor goes down, suddenly we're thin at the 4. So I think I'd rather go 2 front court positions, Jude.
Especially with the David Jones-Garcia signing, as much as that's a 2-way, that's 45 days in the NBA. And with what I saw from him, I'm really not mad at that at all, because I think if we do have some guard injuries, like I would be confident in playing him a little bit. Now, again, the NBA is going to be a completely different animal, but this would be in like a specific situation where we've had multiple guard injuries and he'd be in the backup rotation. I'd actually be confident in that. So, and that's without even mentioning that we're still going to have Champagnie too. That's another thing when it comes to guard depth. So I'm definitely with you. And it's just making me think about it more. Like I was almost like answering the question I was going to ask you when I was asking it earlier, because I was thinking like, But my main thing is like, why haven't we signed these guys yet? But then I'm like, okay, we got the news about David Jones-Garcia today. So it made me wonder, like, maybe the way that I'm thinking they're going to do it is not what's going to ultimately happen. So I think I'll just play a little bit of devil's advocate here. I think I like what we're kind of building in this scenario. But then again, Ethan, now that I'm really looking at this, if we got Julian Champagny as the backup as the third string three, and then we're viewing Carter as a three long term with Harrison Barnes off contract next year, that actually makes complete sense. I was gonna go down there and say, you know what, I still want to get another like Alec Burks type player just in case. But with David Jones-Garcia signing, man, honestly, I'm with you, man. Let's go with two more front court guys and let's just move Julian and Carter down. And like we talked about, Carter can still play the four in certain situations, has the athleticism to do that totally, but long term he may be more of a three. And especially again, we're you look at this, Harrison Barnes will be off contract next season and Keldon will just have one more year. So that would fit still.
Right. I'm with you. And can't forget, we have a point guard on his way at any moment from Barcelona named Juan Nunez.
Oh, man.
That we cannot forget about. He is waiting in the wings to emerge as the long-term backup point guard.
Oh, my goodness. Juan Nunez is still there. Look, Juan Nunez versus Nikola Topic, okay,
Oh, man.
in 2031 is going to be insane in the playoffs off the bench.
I think Juan Nunez, in all seriousness, tore his meniscus a month ago.
Yeah.
So he's likely out for another full year before maybe even 2 years. Who knows? Who knows?
I didn't see that. I knew he got hurt last year, but he got hurt again.
That was an article I was reading was that he tore his meniscus, and that was from July 3rd of this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there you
go.
So
he's done, and I think we technically still have his rights. I mean, he has a profile on NBA.com. Who knows where he is. We also probably have the rights to Nikola Milutinov, for all I know.
Hey, we actually don't have those anymore, but we did for a long time. We held on to him for a good while.
Yeah, this could be another one of those moments for the Spurs.
That's kind of exactly what I was gonna say with that. But yeah, man, when it comes to just some other names to throw out there, like you said, Chris Boucher, DeAndre Jordan, Alex Len, Bol. If we're going full front court, Ethan, Bol is a name that is still out there because they're really like the front court name specifically, especially at center. They're getting real thin right now. So if that's what we're gonna go with, that makes me wonder if maybe we're gonna sign somebody from the EuroLeague that we're not even expecting.
Potentially. I was hoping that one of the excuse me for yawning. One of the centers from Summer League would play well enough for us to take a chance on him, or maybe as one of the two-way guys. But I don't think either of them really proved anything to me this year, Jude. So who knows where we go?
For sure. Okay. Wanted to get to some comments here at the end. So Carsick Colin in the chat, we appreciate it, man. He says, other than DJG, have we signed any other two-way deals? I just joined and I missed their roster breakdown. So basically, as from my understanding as of right now, Colin, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure. so I swear, trust me. No, yes, he is the only one who has signed a two-way as of right now. There have been offers that have been tendered to Harrison Barnes and Riley Minix, so they're restricted free agents. Harrison Ingram, thank you. And but they have not accepted it as of right now. So yeah, Paul Garcia is a really good follow on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, for that one. He kind of just is on top of all of the roster stuff when it comes to that. Because I thought initially that because we had offered both of those to them that, okay, they're just automatically on the team. But that is not the case. I would expect Riley Minix back, but maybe there's a world where Harrison Ingram, we kind of rescind that tendered offer, if that makes sense.
We will see.
Okay, let's see here. He says, I think Minix is a lock for a two-way. Ingram probably also, although I'd be more than happy to move on. I doubt he has an NBA future. Yeah, and that's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier. If you scroll back to the Harrison Ingram section and the Riley Minix section for that matter, we kind of talked about that. Goopcat says, do y'all think we run a full 12-man rotation in the regular season? Not a 12-man, but I do think we're going to run a 10-man rotation for sure. And that might have been what you meant there, Goopcat. But I do think so. What do you think, Ethan?
I think 10-man rotation for sure. And honestly, maybe from time to time an 11-man with Carter Bryant. But I think he'll end up being a kind of spot minutes for guys that are resting or a matchup decision.
If we, this is so, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, Ethan, knock on wood. But if we were to make the playoffs next season, do you think those rotations would be adjusted?
Oh, for sure. They shrink. They shrink to 9, without a doubt.
There you go. But regular season, you think we'll go back to 10? No more center Sohan.
No, I doubt that we see center Sohan if we make the playoffs.
I completely agree. Okay, Carsick Collins says, hard to say. This is our first season with Mitch as head coach. He's not a placeholder anymore. This is his team, but I'd guess a 10-man rotation. That is another thing. We haven't seen Mitch Johnson as a head coach, so we'll definitely see. And I'm interested to see if there are any differences, what they're going to be. Because last year, I'm sure he was kind of taking a lot just from Pop. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm curious to kind of see how that transition is whenever it comes to the rotations.
That's a really good point. It could be the first season where we have a completely different feel to the coaching staff and the rotations, right? Because this is our entire lives have been Pop, so this is the first year without him even having a presence on those decisions.
Yeah, Brett Brown will still be there, but Sean Sweeney, who's going to be like the top assistant, that's also somebody else, from a different organization as well. So, maybe you won't see as many strict, you know what I mean? Like maybe there were so many times where we took Manu out when he was going off because we were we were so, locked into the rotations that we had. And in a lot of ways, that was a big reason why the Spurs won the championships they did. So I'm not dissing that whatsoever. Trust in those guys over me. But maybe you'll see when guys are on a hot streak, like them staying in the game a little bit more than they normally would.
Right. I can see that.
Goopcat says, we've extended qualifying offers to Minix and Ingram, but they haven't signed yet. Okay, so we were right on that. Thank you for confirming that. Colin says, Ethan, I'm still holding out hope for Robertas Yavtakis. It's happening eventually.
I honestly have no idea who that is. I'm assuming he's another Nikola Milutinov that we've just... He might show up.
Look, he says number 55 pick from the 2001 draft. Got a %.
Him and TP, Tony Parker, same draft. Love it.
Henry Rojas, he says 12-man regular season, 10-man in the playoffs. So y'all think there actually could be a possibility for a 12-man rotation? I'm trying to think. I can see Carter spot minutes, and then David Jones-Garcia is the other name that I'm thinking of, but he's a two-way.
Julian?
You know what? Okay, that's actually, there you go. Now I can see why y'all are talking about a 12-man. And look, that'll definitely, I'm not opposed to having more than a 10-man. That's just what I'm going to say my prediction is. But I honestly wouldn't hate that. I would not hate that. And it's a long season and it's a long playoffs. And we saw the injuries that happened in this past year's playoffs as well. That was super impactful. So,
yeah, I mean, if we're winning, then yes. If we start losing, then no, is my opinion.
I think that is a good way to put it there. Robert Ball says, are we keeping one open roster spot until the trade deadline? And I think this is a good question too, Ethan, because I was wondering as time is progressing and the list of some of the positional openings that we have, kind of getting smaller and smaller with more people getting signed, like Christian Coloco, that was another one. He ended up signing a two-way with the Lakers. So he's off the market as well when it comes to centers. Do you think there is a chance that we go into the season with an open roster spot?
Maybe. I don't really know why you would. I guess in case of a buyout, but just waive somebody.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, I have no idea. Maybe he could be right. I don't know how that impacts the salary cap or what kind of flexibility you have to sign somebody in the buyout market or make a trade, but that's foreign to me, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe if we're eyeing something or we know like we're going to try to make a deal at the deadline, maybe that could be the reason that we keep it, especially if you still have 3 two-way guys that can come in and give kind of those minutes and you feel like you've shored up the depth, with Kelly Olynyk and Luke Cornett. But what I would say is if we do that, like it's only going to be one. Like we're going to at least sign one more person going into the season. But I still feel like I don't know if you had to ask me right now what I think we're going to do. I think we're gonna have a full roster going into the year. I think we'll come up with 2 signings before the season starts.
This feels like the first year in like 5 years, probably since we started this podcast, that we haven't had like 20 guys show up to training camp. You
I
know what I
forget
mean?
about that too. Like, no, think about Chandler Hutchinson. As much as that's always like a joke that we bring up, like we had Al Farouk Aminu, like we had
Yep.
all these different dudes. We went in with an excess, and then people had to get cut. Not, there's 2 open roster spots, and it's almost August.
Yeah, this is an unusual occurrence. So I would imagine we have a full roster too, Jude. But like we just said, this is Mitch Johnson's first season, and maybe he wants to run things differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and this could maybe be kind of the first example of that. That's something that I just hadn't really thought about too much because you just know the Spurs culture is ingrained in there to an extent, but they're probably are. I mean, it's not pop anymore. And that's like you said, dude, that's what me and you have. That's the only thing we've ever known with the Spurs.
Sorry, Winky just made a really loud noise. I have no idea what he's doing.
You're totally good. All right. Colin says that, and I sent you this text as well, Ethan, that David Jones-Garcia had a $2 million contract from Olympiakos. I'm totally butchering that, but it's one of the major Greek teams out there in their league that he declined in order to play for $600K on a 2-way deal. So that again ties into him just picking a 2-way contract over maybe a potential standard NBA contract and a EuroLeague contract. Like he took less money to play for the Spurs.
Yep, speaks volumes about his character and what he thinks of the developmental staff and the overall front office. That's awesome that he wants to be here.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, just says a lot about his character, which is probably a big reason why the Spurs wanted to get him on top of what he was doing on the court.
100%.
Goopcat says, I think we have 12 rotation level guys. They'll probably get swapped around in who plays and who doesn't, matchup dependent. And yeah, Ethan reminded me of Julian there. He just kind of gets lost in the shuffle with all the guys that we've brought in. So honestly, I agree with you. I do think we have 12 rotation level guys. Obviously Carter's probably the most raw out of those guys, but I do think that you could play Carter Bryant in game 1 off the bench and he would make like a defensive impact. I think he could immediately come in, make a defensive impact, at least not clog up the offense. And also, be a rebounder as well. We saw him give a lot of effort, not just on the defensive boards, but on the offensive boards for second chance opportunities as well. So I definitely think he would be able to come in and make an impact as much as he still has some development long-term.
Agreed.
He also says, I don't think we need all of Wemby, Olynyk, and Cornett every night. I think that's a fair statement.
Depending on the team, yeah.
Right, for sure. Man, that's and now we actually have those options, Ethan. Isn't that nice?
100% nice.
Let me see here. Goopcat also says teams are required to have 14 rostered players before the season starts. So we get the train in the back there. So that kind of goes to Robert's point. Maybe we could go in with 1 open roster spot, but we cannot go in with 2. We're going to have to sign at least 1 more person.
There you go. Sorry about the train.
No, you're totally good. Now that'll be the new. I can't wait until that happens on a late night post game.
It's gonna happen a lot. That train goes by a lot.
It's okay. We went to Texas State. We're used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Robert says rosters must have 14 standard contracts. If we traded 1 player for 2 players, we would need an open roster spot. Interesting. Didn't think about that either. And if you're trying to offload a contract, that would probably be the scenario where you would do it. So, and the Spurs could be in that situation. So I see your train of thought now on that one, Robert.
Interesting.
Let me see here. Carsick Collins says, if we're going to trade, we probably need to consolidate players, not do any 2-for-1s. Henry Rojas says, could Champagny be a surprise starter? and Vassell off the bench, I guess, or
We've talked about that a little bit.
yeah. I mean, look, Champagny started for a good bit last year, so I definitely could see him. If they think that that's going to be the best meshing starting lineup, and he's just going to be able to come in and kind of be that off-ball floor spacer around Wemby and De'Aaron and whoever else is in the starting lineup, I could totally see that.
Mm.
And he says Vassell would come off the bench with Harper. And yeah, we have another lineup right now, another variation of that where Julian's not even in the rotation and Devin Vassell is coming off the bench. So definitely would be open to that for sure. And then Carson Collins says, train of thought. Get it?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And he says, in that case, you're just salary dumping him. And he's talking about this up here. Never is a big word. I think if you're trading Vassell, it's because you want out of his 4 years of salary. I'd gladly flip him for 2 expirings. Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens, with Kevin. I think I've done this before. Keldon and Devin. That was like the
Yeah, you have. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah. Keldon and Devin's contracts over the next 2 years because Wemby's coming down the pipe. De'Aaron's coming up next season. I think Jeremy Sohan's extension is coming up next season, or if it's not next season, it's the year after that. There's definitely going to be some contract decisions to be made. Maybe next week, Ethan, since we're kind of in the dead period now after the summer league, we can kind of look at our roster situation, or excuse me, our cap situation with our roster next week, and kind of just break that down and look at what we think is kind of going to be most pertinent long term.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea because a lot of conversation here, and there's not a lot going on now that the summer league is over. So we appreciate you guys. We got one more comment in here. We'll wrap up with this one. Wanted to talk to you guys a little bit as well at the end. Haven't done a live in a little bit. Apologies for that. We and another thing I forgot to mention as well, as we'll get to our last comment here in a second. Last Thursday, we were planning to do the post game against the Hornets. Granted, that ended up being a blowout, so it wasn't the end of the world that we missed it. And you might have noticed in last week's episode that we did, there was a little cut at the end of it. And that was basically because me and Ethan had just had a busy week. We got on, we recorded, and I said at the end of the episode, all right, guys, we'll see you this Thursday for the post game. And then after the episode, Ethan was like, hey, man, I'm moving this weekend. As you guys can see in this episode, not going to be able to do Thursday night. So apologize for that because I did post in the posts section on our channel that we were going to do that. And then we ended up not. But now that all those games are done, Ethan, we're going to need some things to talk about. So I think the cap, this would be a good time of year to kind of break down the cap and think about these future extensions.
Yeah, 5 years into this podcast, it might be time for me to actually understand the cap.
What a thought. We appreciate you guys. I see some of the comments in here. Robert Ball says great live cast and smart chat. We appreciate it. Carstick Collins says SSPN should be live from Las Vegas sometime. Thomas and Mac is a great experience during summer league. Maybe one day we'll have to do that. I have never been to Vegas, and I definitely want to go at some point. So maybe summer league is the time to go. But this was the comment I was referencing earlier that we're going to end the show off with here, Ethan. Henry Rojas says, who is your closing lineup tonight against, let's say, the Thunder?
Pull up your starting lineup. Huh. Well, I don't know if we have one. Against the Thunder, I think it's really just uber dependent on who's playing well. Because I think, honestly, it's those 5 guys right there, except maybe shift Harrison to the 4 and Devin to the 3 if you need shooting. Are we up or are we down? Is the question. Are we trying to get a stop or are we trying to get a bucket?
Let's say it's a close game, just a close competitive game.
I'd go with our starting lineup that you had on the screen.
Okay. I'll do something a little bit different. I'll take out, let me see here. I want to insert Dylan Harper in, but I'm not sure if I want to take Harrison or Jeremy out. I'm going to take Harrison out. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama.
It's a good one.
But I could see arguments for others. Those are
It,
just, I think, like our 5 most talented players.
if we got the ball and we need a shot and we have a chance at a rebound and they have Hartenstein in, then you're moving Victor to the 4 and you're putting in Luke Cornett, the 5.
That's a really good point, especially against the Thunder. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, actually, you know what? If Hartenstein's in, that's what I would do right there. That would be the main thing. What I would take Jeremy out entirely at that point, and I would go De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Wemby, and Luke Cornett.
I like that.
We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I see Jacob. Of course, Jacob gets in here at the very end, but we appreciate you always in the comments, man. Thank y'all for hanging out with us tonight. Y'all tell us in the comments below or post-show afterwards who you would like to see the Spurs sign with these last 2 roster spots, and also who you think is the most important extension for the Spurs moving forward outside of Victor Wembanyama. So again, we appreciate y'all. If y'all enjoyed the show, don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe button below. If you want to stay updated with the show, follow us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Go Spurs, go. We're getting a week closer to hopefully, Ethan, winning time for the San Antonio Spurs. We'll catch y'all.